The sun hung high over a quiet little town, its rays bouncing off the cracked pavement outside a cozy roadside cafe called Sunny's Stop. The air smelled of fresh coffee and warm bread, and the jukebox in the corner played a soft tune from years gone by. At a small table near the window sat Amara Sen, a woman whose presence carried a quiet strength. Her hands, rough from years of gripping firefighting gear, rested on a polished walking stick. A faded badge on her jacket told a story of bravery, a firefighter who'd run into burning buildings to save strangers, only to lose the full use of her leg in a tragic collapse. Amara wasn't here for praise or pity. All she wanted was a hot meal and a moment to breathe. But sometimes life has other plans. Before we dive into this tale, let's set the stage. If you believe in kindness, courage, and the power of standing up for what's right, do me a favor. Smash that like button, share this video with someone who could use a spark of hope, and stick with us till the end. You're about to hear a story that'll remind you why humanity still shines, even on the toughest days. Inside Sunny's Stop, the clink of dishes and the hum of chatter filled the air. Amara adjusted her jacket, the badge catching a glint of sunlight. She'd faced flames, fear, and long nights in hospital beds, relearning how to walk. The scars on her hands and the limp in her step were proof of her fight, but so was the fire in her eyes. She ordered a cup of tea and a plate of fries, her voice soft but steady, and settled into her seat, hoping for a quiet lunch. The other customers barely noticed her, lost in their own worlds. Families sharing stories, truckers sipping coffee, and a couple of kids giggling over milkshakes. But not everyone was so kind. At a table in the back, 4 men in heavy boots and worn leather jackets sat sprawled out, their laughter loud and sharp. They weren't just passing through. They had a roughness to them, like they owned the place. Their jackets were covered in patches, and their voices carried a careless edge. At first, Amara didn't pay them any mind. She'd faced worse than loudmouths, collapsing roofs, choking smoke, and moments when she wasn't sure she'd make it out alive. But then she heard it. A snicker. A whisper. "Look at her limping around like she's some kind of hero," one of them said, loud enough for the whole cafe to hear. Amara's fingers tightened around her tea mug, but she kept her gaze down. She wasn't here to start trouble. She just wanted to eat and move on. But the men didn't stop. Their words grew sharper, their jokes crueler. They mocked her walking stick, laughed about the scars peeking out from her sleeve, and called her weak. "Bet she can't even carry her own plate," one chuckled, nudging his friend. The others roared, their voices bouncing off the cafe walls. The other customers shifted uncomfortably, some glancing over, but no one said a word. The air felt heavier now, like a storm brewing in the quiet. The loudest of the group, a stocky man with a shaved head and a thick silver chain around his neck, pushed his chair back with a scrape. He swaggered over to Amara's table, his boots thudding against the checkered floor. Leaning down, he flicked the badge on her jacket with a sneer. "What's this? You think you're some big-shot firefighter?" he taunted, his voice dripping with mockery. "Doesn't look like you're saving anybody now, huh?" He leaned closer, his shadow falling over her table. The cafe went dead silent. The waitresses froze behind the counter, clutching their notepads. A young couple in the corner exchanged nervous glances, but no one moved. Amara looked up, her eyes steady despite the knot in her chest. "I just want to eat," she said, her voice calm but firm, like she was talking down a fire. The man laughed, a cold, hollow sound, and nudged her shoulder, hard enough to make her wince and shift in her seat. His friends hooted from their table, banging their fists like it was a show. Amara's heart pounded, but she refused to let them see her break. She'd survived too much: fires, surgeries, nights when the pain was so bad she could barely breathe. But these words, this needless cruelty, cut deeper than she expected. It wasn't just an insult. It was like they were trying to erase everything she'd fought for. Outside, the faint rumble of engines broke the tension. Dust swirled in the parking lot as a line of pickup trucks and vans rolled in, their tires crunching on the gravel. The men inside the cafe didn't notice, too caught up in their own bravado. But the waitresses did, Their eyes widened and a whisper rippled through the staff. "That's them," one murmured. "The paramedics." It wasn't just any group pulling up. It was a crew of retired paramedics, men and women who'd spent their lives racing into chaos to save lives. They were in town for their annual reunion, a tight-knit family bound by years of pulling people from car wrecks, heart attacks, and disasters. Through the cafe's wide windows, they saw Amara cornered and alone, her face set but her hands trembling slightly. The door swung open with a jingle, and in walked Vikram Rao, a tall, broad-shouldered paramedic with a face weathered by years of service. His graying hair was cropped short, and his eyes held a quiet intensity that made the room pause. Behind him came his team, 6 men and women, each carrying the kind of confidence that doesn't need to shout. They weren't loud or flashy, but their presence filled the space like a tide rolling in. The jukebox seemed to fade, the air growing thick with anticipation. The stocky man at Amara's table froze, his smirk slipping as Vikram's gaze landed on him. Vikram didn't rush. He walked slowly, deliberately, his boots steady on the floor. His eyes moved from the man to Amara, taking in her badge, her walking stick, the way she sat tall despite the cruelty thrown at her. He didn't see just a woman. He saw a hero, someone who'd given everything for others, just like he had. His team fanned out behind him, forming a quiet wall around Amara's table. The cafe was so silent you could hear the hum of the fridge behind the counter. Even the kids with their milkshakes stopped giggling, sensing something big was happening. The stocky man tried to laugh it off, tossing out a weak joke. "What, you her bodyguard now?" he said, but his voice wavered. Vikram didn't blink. He stepped closer, his voice low and steady, like a warning carved in stone. "You've got one chance to walk away," he said. "Take it." The words weren't loud, but they carried the weight of someone who'd seen real stakes, life, death, and everything in between. The man's friends stopped laughing. Their bravado, so loud just moments ago, crumbled like dry leaves. The stocky man glanced at his crew, then back at Vikram, whose teammate, a woman with sharp eyes and a medic's patch on her sleeve, took a single step forward. That was enough. Muttering under his breath, the man backed off, his hands raised like he was surrendering. One by one, his friends followed, their boots scuffing the floor as they shuffled toward the door. The jingle of the bell sounded like a sigh of relief as they stumbled outside, their trucks roaring to life and speeding off into the dust. The cafe exhaled. A waitress let out a shaky laugh and the jukebox seemed to hum a little louder. Amara sat still, her hands wrapped around her walking stick. She'd spent years rebuilding herself, learning to walk again, facing the nightmares of that fateful fire, proving she was more than her scars. But in that moment, something new stirred inside her. Not anger or pain, but a warmth she hadn't felt in a long time. These strangers, these paramedics, hadn't just stood up for her. They'd seen her, truly seen her, as one of their own. Vikram knelt beside her table, his eyes kind but fierce. "You're not alone," he said softly. "Not today, not ever." The paramedics didn't leave. They pulled up chairs, ordered coffee, and started talking with Amara like old friends. They shared stories of their own, close calls on the job, lives they'd saved, and the weight they carried long after the siren stopped. Amara found herself smiling, then laughing, as one of them told a story about a rookie paramedic who once got stuck in a stretcher. For the first time that day, she felt light, like the shadows of her past weren't so heavy anymore. As the sun dipped lower, casting golden streaks through the cafe windows, Amara finished her meal. The fries were cold now, but she didn't care. She felt warm, seen, and stronger than she had in years. When she stood to leave, her walking stick tapped the floor, but her steps felt steadier. The paramedics walked with her to the door, a quiet circle of respect and solidarity. Outside, the parking lot glowed in the fading light, and the air felt softer, kinder. Inside the cafe, the other customers watched in awe. A young girl tugged at her mom's sleeve, whispering, "They're heroes, aren't they?" Her mom nodded, wiping a tear from her cheek. What happened that day wasn't just a standoff, it was a reminder of what makes us human. In a world that can feel cold and cruel, There are still people who stand up, who see the scars we carry, and who remind us we're never truly alone. Amara's story isn't just about one woman or one cafe. It's about the courage it takes to keep going, the kindness that can change a moment, and the unspoken bond between those who've given everything for others. That day at Sunny's stop, a group of strangers turned a moment of cruelty into a story of hope. And that's what Moral Echo Tales is all about. Finding the light in the darkest corners and sharing it with the world. If this story touched your heart, smash that like button, share it with someone who needs a little hope today, and hit that subscribe button to join the Moral Echo Tales family. Your support keeps these stories alive, reminding us all of the power of compassion and courage. Before you go, drop a comment below and tell us, what's a moment of kindness you've seen or felt that changed everything? Your story could inspire someone watching right now. Let's keep the light burning, keep the tales echoing, and keep showing the world what humanity can do. Subscribe now, and we'll see you in the next tale.